seems to be a common theme at the minute, but we started off with some sad news. A couple of days ago, Bushwhacker Butch, real name of Robert Miller, had unfortunately passed away. All of us here at the Wild World of Wrestling would like to extend our condolences to his family and friends, and especially his tag team partner, his best friend, Bushwhacker Luke, as they suffer through the loss of losing a friend, a father, a husband, and a family member.
Yeah, no, very, very sad news indeed. Apparently, he'd only been in America for a couple of days. He'd gone over for WrestleMania and he attended WrestleMania and he hadn't been well, but no one thought he was that situation. And as of last night, our time, there was still no actual result in terms of whether it was a heart attack, whether it was whatever. No, I think that's still under wraps unless something's come out today. But very, very sad news indeed. And being a Kiwi, I actually grew up watching them. I remember when they started in the would have been early 70s in New Zealand. And then obviously followed them as the sheep herders and then as the bushwhackers when they got into WWE and that. And yeah, it was very, very sad news indeed. There was a lot of tributes all over the internet last night, particularly a lot from New Zealand, including our old mate, the Tank, and a few of the others. But yeah, just unexpectedly. Well, I think it was 78. So, I mean, not old. So a lot of the younger people listening, they'll probably think it's ancient, but I'm approaching 60, so 78's not that old. But no, really, really sad. And as you said, Anthony, it's happening on a regular basis. Like, every month there's something. And superstar Billy Graham apparently is in a very bad way.
Yeah, both Luke and Butch are absolute legends in the New Zealand wrestling scene, and and a great loss to the community of pro wrestling worldwide. I've seen a few. I never met them, but I've seen a few interviews of them on shoots and talking about their sheep herder days, and coming from this very violent tag team and then going to the Bushwhackers was quite. They found that quite hilarious, like in there, and they were very colourful and just great for wrestling in general, and
a bit unique. Even they were still around sort of in the days where there were some charismatic and sort of unique characters in that. And I was actually thinking last night, I'm really, really glad that it was, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, Anthony, your memory's better than mine, but they got inducted into the Hall of Fame. So it was good that sort of happened while obviously both were still alive. And
yeah, it was. It's one of the one things that I question with the Hall of Fame is that they sometimes wait until the superstar has unfortunately passed away before they get their roses.
Yeah, weren't there? 2 out of the 5 were already passed away.
Yeah, that's right.
No disrespect, but I don't think I would have put Andy Kaufman in personally. But Tim White, definitely the referee. I mean, his career was huge and particularly behind the scenes. But it's a shame, that it's what is it like? Everybody misses you when you're dead, but when you're here, nobody wants to know you.
We're starting to lose another member of that golden era. We'll say for guys from the 70s and 80s, they just keep, falling away by the wayside. And it's a shame that they're not talked about and celebrated more about while they're alive than when they pass on. Yeah. So I think it's something that I think as a wrestling community, we need to start looking at those, what we call old time wrestlers and start celebrating their deeds and what they've done before they pass away.
Well, as you were involved with me and Anthony too, and a mate of ours and Graham and that, but that was the whole premise behind that reunion dinner I was trying to do a year or two ago. was, our guys even here, like getting older, passing, if we don't sort of do it now, we're never going to do it sort of thing. And again, just a whole heap of apathy. Everybody was interested until it came to the crunch time. Because what were the numbers? What were the numbers we had? That was it 170?
I think so, until it come time to pay.
Yeah, and then and then 21 did.
Yeah.
So the apathy and it's it can't be that important.
Well,
I think it's a shame, but I think a lot of the current day ones, to some degree, I sort of understand that they didn't grow up and see some of the old timers. So to them, don't know them, never saw them, almost didn't exist in my life, sort of thing. But they're all the ones who paved the way for us, and
that's right,
paved the way for the current ones. And but again, unfortunately, our business is, as we were talking off here, but our business, unfortunately, is growing I don't want to say a generation, because then it just puts everybody offside. But we've come through a wave now where, it's a bit like a racehorse. You're as good as your last run. Either finish.
Yeah, I agree. I think in the wrestling industry, though, I think it's always been a little bit like that. I mean, the old timers were a little bit like that as well, and I think it's the way, as we've spoken about many times, there's not too many you make really true friends in the wrestling industry. I mean, yourself and myself, and and maybe a handful of other people that you would say that you would say were close friends. You may know hundreds of people in the wrestling industry, and everyone's your mate, and but when you're not in the business, all of a sudden they're not your mate anymore. You don't even hear from them.
No, well, look, I'm lucky in one respect. I'd say there'd be a dozen or so that I would call good close friends, and I don't see them all, but I'd see most on a semi-regular basis, sort of thing. But when you think of 30 years of all the ones we've worked with, in 30 years, and you've promoted and you've started in their career and taken them right through till they finished and all of the rest of it, it's a bit sad when you can only say there's probably about a dozen or so.
Well, you're probably doing better than me. I can probably think about 4, 5 tops.
Well, you got to remember, I'm around a wee bit before you, so it was a bit more of the older boys. But even if you count the boys in Sydney that I'm pretty close to, maybe 15 I'd consider, good friends.
Yeah.
Or some obviously. There are some that are good friends and some that are very, very good friends, obviously. But it's a shame when you think of how many hundreds we would have worked with and been involved with over those years.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's just the nature of the industry. I think a little bit on that.
Anyway.
All right.
That was very, very sad news. So, as you said very well there, young Anthony, obviously condolences to all. And I think it was Luke was saying in one of his messages yesterday, he was an only child. So, Butch was sort of like he was his brother in every sense of the word. So, he was really feeling it. You could sense that in his message.
Yeah. Have been together for a long time too.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, no, since the early 70s, 50 years. Oh, that was a long time as, close mates.
That's it.
Anyway. So very sad news, and but hopefully we just remember him for all the good stuff he did.
He'll be up there chewing on the forehead of Randy Macho Man Savage.
Yes.
And it'll be good. Like, the way I saw it is, like, you don't see any mention of as you guys put it, the golden era. It's almost as if whatever happened then and had no effect on the current generation that I've been watching. And I mean, I didn't watch much of the Bushwhackers because I wasn't around at the time, but it's still knowing that they were somebody, like, they were a tag team that people grew up with, and you're seeing that era kind of dwindle.
Yeah, well, see,
Constantly.
there's not really a lot of really good established long-term tag teams like, like the Road Warriors, and all those sorts of teams, iconic teams, even going back before Michael's time. Mr. Fuji and Professor Tanaka, absolute massive team all over the world. But genuine tag teams, the Road Warriors, the Sheep Herders, or the Bushwhackers, or there's lots of teams like that. Not much of that now. That even in the days where you had like Tito Santana and Ivan Putski, or Tony Gurria and Rick Martel, or whatever. But the Killer Bees, or so many that were like proper legendary tag teams, so to speak. There's not really. I can't off the top of my head think of an outfit current day that would be. Like a real, I suppose FTR to some degree, and well, the Briscoes, unfortunately, was one of them passing, but not many these days that like a real established tag team, like we had in the past.
I don't think that promotions invest the time into them anymore like they used to. Like if you look at the old NWA or Crockett Promotions or Mid South, they would promote tag teams as main event units. Now it's all about the singles match, and I think it's a great loss because the tag team match gives you a lot, and the Bushwhackers or Sheep Herders, were very good at this of using the two people to bend the rules, to use them, for hot tags to create, suspense in a match, or energy in a by the hot tag and etc. So it's something that's actually lost on modern day promotions, and I think modern day promoters don't see it, and that's really a legacy of WWE, because WWE has not pushed tag teams probably since the late 80s.
Right, late 80s, early 90s. See, I'm on a lot of the pages of like old school stuff, and they put up like cards from back in the 70s and that. And there might have been 3 or 4 tag matches on the card.
And some of them might have been even main eventing.
Yeah, absolutely they were, yeah.
So, it wasn't like it was just like a supporting role. Sometimes
no.
your tags, like, the Rock and Roll Express, the Midnight Express, they sold out, arenas all over the southern part of America and that. So, but it's something that's lost now on modern day promoters. And it's something that, the great thing about tag team wrestling is that the heels can double team. You can build heat on a face. You can build anticipation through the crowd. Then it works into the hot tag. The crowd becomes excited because finally the tag has happened. If you look at a singles match, you've really only got the comeback. And unless you've got a manager outside, or something goes on that cuts it off the face quick or holds the face down, there's not really much in it. You think about with a tag match, you've got a lot of avenues you can travel down to. A lot
of moving parts, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it's probably a lost art in reality, and it's a shame you lose somebody like Butch, because he's a guy that was a master of those moving parts. He was a master of tag team wrestling. We're lucky. He's probably the people who've got the opportunity to work with him, like probably Tank in New Zealand, would have been able, to listen to his ideas and his understandings of tag wrestling and soak that in. But there wouldn't be too many people who've had that opportunity.
No.
Right. So what else